if I came to your office and I invited everyone apart from you to go out for a drink, then you might feel hurt. I expect you would dislike me, and you would certainly feel annoyed. As we all know, these emotional reactions to being left out are perfectly normal. It is our nature to want to be in the group. What you might not realise is that it's exactly the same when it comes to work meetings. Everyone is always saying how much they hate meetings, but we keep having meetings, so really, we love meetings? According to research from the University of Harvard, what we actually love is being invited to a meeting. An invitation validates our sense of importance, it reinforces our value to the company, and, well, it's always nice to feel valued and wanted. Some people also really love meetings themselves. That's because they see it as an easy part of the day, subconsciously perhaps, but it's an opportunity to sit around, have a chat, feel like you're adding value, whilst really just letting the clock tick by whilst you enjoy a fresh brew. What that means, as we all know, is that most of the time, meetings end up being a complete waste of time and money. In fact, next time you're in a boring group meeting, just have a quick glance around the table or around the room and calculate in your mind, if you can, the approximate value of that meeting, the cost of that meeting to the business. Always end up being more than the value you're getting out of it. A few years ago, I was sitting in a standard boring meeting and started flicking on my phone looking for a better way of doing these sessions. I wanted to avoid waste and actually turn these limp, lifeless sessions into something super valuable that would help propel my business forwards. What I discovered was a format that Jeff Bezos has been using at Amazon for years to make meetings work really well. I call it the memo meeting. Done correctly, it means that there is a clear objective to the meeting, everybody in the session understands the full subject matter, and importantly, you are encouraged to leave if at any point you're not adding value. I've done this a bunch of times with my teams. It's a real game changer, and I'm going to explain to you how it works. Just before I jump into the first step, I wanted to ask you something really quickly. The purpose of this channel is to produce regular content on careers, goals, entrepreneurship, startups, cultures, teams. In order to do that, we need to build the subscriber list. So if you haven't done so already, if you would subscribe to this channel, it will make a big difference. Thank you very much. So the memo meeting begins with the person calling the meeting writing a detailed document or a memo about the subject of the meeting. If the subject of the meeting is not worth a detailed multi-page document, then it shouldn't be a meeting at all. It's an instant message or an email, maybe even less than that. The memo needs to be very well written. It gives background on the subject matter. It explains all of the information that somebody would need to know coming in absolutely fresh to this issue in order to be able to contribute to the solutions that you're looking for. Now, Amazon's version of this meeting requires that the document be text only. I think that they say typically 6 pages or more of text only. We didn't set that rule. I found that sometimes data, graphs, charts, images are important to give the person the full context of the situation, and sometimes decisions are specifically around design or something like that. So we say go all out, put in all of the different type of content that you think is needed in order to really paint a detailed picture of the situation. The memo also needs to finish with clear, detailed objectives of the meeting, specific questions and key things that need to be decided upon or discussed before the meeting can be considered closed and success. Now, the memo is not sent to participants of the meeting before the session actually begins. But when the meeting starts, everybody sits down and a copy of the memo is handed out to each participant. At the same time, phones, laptops are placed in the middle of the table so that there are no distractions. Then, all the participants sit around the table or in the room, wherever you are, with their copy of the memo, and they simply read. They go through the memo, they can make notes as they go, but what they're all doing at the same time is everybody in the room is digesting the full information and getting onto the same page about the subjects. This can be a little bit weird. The first time we did it, I remember we were in a beach hut and there were a bunch of people there, and it was a bit strange that everybody is just sat around reading, particularly for the person who wrote the memo who isn't reading, but you quite quickly get used to it, and it's not too strange for the people who are in the meeting because they're distracted by reading the memo and getting into the information. Now, once everyone's finished reading, you've arrived at somewhere quite exciting, which is you now have a group of people who all fully understand the reason that you brought them together. They fully understand the issues that you want to talk about, and they are ready to jump into the actual action points and discussion points of the meeting. Normal meetings, what happens is you spend a bunch of time presenting at the start when people are distracted or looking at other things, And if you send memos or emails or documents ahead of the meeting, some people have read them, some people haven't, some people read them properly, some people were distracted when they were doing it. So with this format, you've now arrived at that point, like I say, where everyone has a really good understanding of where we are. If you've got a good team, as I'm sure you do, then most of your team will have started already making notes and thinking about the solutions to the problems or whatever the objectives are during the time that other people were reading. This is really, really good because you're ready now to start discussing these things, and your participants of the meeting are now armed with ideas to help you deal with whatever it is you want to do. So then the meeting begins, or the meeting begins. People can discuss it and you jump straight in. I've done this over the past few years with a number of different teams, and so far it's worked really well. The better the quality of the memo, the better the outcome of the meeting. It's a really good way of sharing things with your team that you want them to get a deep understanding of. Perhaps even challenges and obstacles in the business that are a bit sensitive. This is quite a good way for people to read about that and kind of have that time straight away for you to discuss it with them once they're up to speed on what the problems and challenges are. But you have to remember the rules. The memo has to be detailed. If it's not good enough, not a big enough subject for the memo, then get rid of the meeting altogether. People have to be allowed to leave if they're not adding value or don't feel that they're getting value from the meeting. No phones, laptops, distractions of any sort. People have to just sit and read, and clear action points that you need to get out of the meeting, clear things that you've predefined as being the objectives of the meeting. That's must have. Give it a go. Hopefully it makes your sessions with your teams more productive, and you kind of can go on the journey that I went on, where instead of having boring meetings where maybe you're the only person engaged in it and you're just speaking to a bunch of blank faces that aren't giving you much back, you turn that around and all of a sudden you get engagement from people, ideas from people, sparks can fly, and you can really make things happen. Try it out. See you next time.